Podcast Answer Man, episode number 438.
Hey everybody, this is Gary Vaynerchuk, and you're listening to the Podcast Answer Man.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Podcast Answer Man. My name is Cliff Ravenscraft, and this, my friends, is the podcast devoted to helping you take your message, your business, and your life to the next level. That's right, my friends. It does not matter if you are brand new to this online content creating world we live in, or if you've been creating content for many years. There's something we can all do to take everything we do in life to the next level. And oh my gosh, have I taken life to the next level over the past couple weeks. I have just returned from another world. I was in New Zealand to do the keynote address for the Asia Pacific Podcast Conference for my friend Paul Spain, and I decided to give myself an entire 10-day experience in New Zealand. And man, this was something that was on my bucket list to visit that country. And it not only met my expectations of what I hoped it would be, but it far exceeded my expectations. It was incredible. The people that I met in New Zealand were out of this world in their generosity and kindness. The landscapes and the beauty of the earth that I saw there is like nothing I've seen anywhere before. And I've been to a lot of very, very beautiful places. And I will tell you, I've been back. Tomorrow I will be back one full week. I have suffered the greatest case of jet lag that I've ever experienced in my life. But I already miss that place, and I know what people say, that there's a hole in their heart, the shape of New Zealand. And I think that's what my friend Father Roderick Von Hogan has said, and yeah, I definitely feel it. I can't wait to go back, and there's no doubt in my mind that I'm taking my wife back to experience that place. And yeah. Anyway, so I went to the Asia Pacific Podcast Conference. I hope that you guys have enjoyed the podcast episodes that I've released over the past couple of weeks. They were all pre-recorded. It seems like eons ago since the last time I was behind this microphone, but I wanted to make sure that I had that content. Here's the deal. I don't have anything pre-recorded and ready to go for Friday, February 26th, which is when this episode is being released. So I'm sitting here in my studio right now on Thursday, February 24th. I thought that I might actually get in here in the studio earlier this week, but like I said, crossing this space-time continuum known as the International Dateline, 18 hours into the past I had to travel, and it took me 24 hours to get home, and I don't even know now, 6 days later, I'm not even sure if I'm completely over the jet lag yet. I think I am, but I'm not quite certain. I'll know tomorrow. I should know tonight if I can go to sleep and stay in bed all night tonight. But here's the deal. This episode is a little bit raw, unscripted, and hopefully very little editing, if any, done on this episode. So bear with me on this one. I do know the topic that I want to share with you here, but before I get to the main topic of Snapchat, by the way, I don't want to tease you and not tell you right off the gate, off the gate. Yeah, I should edit that, but I won't. But anyway, you're going to get the authentic Cliff this week, my friends. But anyway, we're going to talk about Snapchat. But before I do, I have to let you know that iTunes has announced that they're changing the way that you submit podcasts in the Apple Podcast directory, and I think it's called iTunes Connect. And those of us who currently have podcasts can sign in, and we should be able to do some management of things there. I've briefly looked into it, and well, since this all happened since I've been away, and as I said, I've been jet lagged, so I don't know a lot about it right here, and certainly would not have been able to get enough time to research it and bring to you a full-blown episode on that by tomorrow morning, when this is scheduled to be, needs to be out to you guys. So bear with me. I will learn a lot about this iTunes Connect and get you some more detailed information about it. For those of you who have an existing podcast, you really don't need to worry about anything. For those of you who are getting ready to launch a podcast for the very first time, well, you will need to know some different information than what has been published previously in any of the tutorials that I've made. So updates will be coming very soon to a future episode of Podcast Answer Man here, probably as early as next week. Also, what else? I don't have enough time this week to tell you about a brand new social media tool that has come out, or a social media network that has come out called Anchor, but it is something that I'm watching. I don't know if it's going to be a passing fad. I'm leaning towards the fact that it might be a passing fad, but it is compelling, and I think I am hoping that it won't be a passing fad. If you have not heard about Anchor, I encourage you to at least go ahead and start checking it out. It is anchor.fm. Again, that's anchor.fm. It is iPhone only right now, which I think is going to be a little bit hard for its adoption. If you are familiar with the term onboarding process, it has one of the best onboarding processes I've ever seen, and it is audio Twitter, if you will. And that's an overly simplistic explanation, but that's all I have time for this week. Probably in next week's episode or the week after, I will go into Anchor in more detail. But I have already decided, and I knew this before I left for New Zealand, that this episode I have to tell you about Snapchat. Now, many of you have heard about Snapchat for years. You've probably thought of it as this social media app that allows young teenagers to take risque photos of themselves and send it to their friends, and then they disappear. And that's really what this app was initially, quote unquote, known for. At least that was the reputation it had. Now, it's not necessarily built for that, but the idea was that it did give the people the ability to share photos with one another that could be displayed for a very brief moment of time, and that are not intended to be seen ever again after that. The app has expanded since then, and it has become something that I believe is going to far eclipse the attention of Twitter. In fact, I will say that I have fallen in love with Snapchat. And if you haven't fallen in love with Snapchat yet, my prediction that if you are hearing my voice, if you are into podcasting, if you are into social media, if you have a Facebook account, if you have a Twitter account, and you have a podcast, if those three things are true and you are not currently in love with Snapchat, you will be within the next 24 months. That I am absolutely certain of it. And my recommendation is that you fall in love with it sooner rather than later, because right now I believe is the perfect time to jump into the Snapchat game. All right. What is Snapchat today? Snapchat today is an application on your smartphone that allows you to privately, if you would like, share snaps with your friends or your followers on your community, whatever. And these private snaps can be either text, which I find myself using text quite a bit. But these private snaps are generally photos or video that can be displayed or recorded for anywhere between 1 to 10 seconds in length. All right. So if I want to, I can record a short 10-second video and send that privately to one of my friends. They can then receive that and watch that video. And then once they've done that, it pretty much disappears. They can't watch it again. Now, of course, there's some replays and other things like that. We're not going to go into that. But the idea is that that's what this app started with. It's that private sharing of information between two individuals. And the idea is that you get to see it once and then it's gone. Now, a couple months ago, or maybe even a couple years ago, I don't even know, Snapchat added a functionality or a feature called Stories. And Stories is a service where it allows you to share publicly an ongoing list of public snaps. Now, these public snaps are only photos or videos, no text. Well, you can put text overlays on top of your photos or over your video, but this is where instead of taking a photo and putting text on it, or potentially or optionally putting text on it, and instead of taking a video and sending it privately to a friend, you actually can choose to share this to a destination called your story. And when you take a photo or a video and allow it to be displayed between 1 to 10 seconds, then that snap gets sent to your public story and it builds upon itself. So what happens is people who are following you on Snapchat can see a chronological list of the snaps. That's what these photos or videos are called, in the order that you released them. And the cool thing is that if they're following you throughout the day and you've been snapping throughout the day and they're keeping up to date with you, they can, let's just say, be working for 2 or 3 hour block of time and then come and check out Snapchat and pick up right where they left off in following your snaps and see anything that you've snapped since the last time they've checked in with your story and were at that time called up to date. The other thing that's really cool about this is it has the ability for people to kind of just get a glimpse into your day. And here's what I love about Snapchat. This is what I've fallen in love with. It is today what Twitter was in 2007. Now, when Twitter first came out, it was not in the public. It was not mainstream by any stretch of the imagination. But the early adopters, people like myself, the geeks, the people who really love to connect with other people online socially, we fell in love with Twitter because Twitter asked a question, and that question was, "What are you doing?" And the idea was that Twitter would allow you, in 140 characters or less, it would allow you to share what's going on in your life in between the blog posts or in between the podcast episodes. So what happens is, us content creators, we're out there, social media people, we're writing blog posts, either some of you, or creating podcast episodes. Some of you do it daily. Many of us do it weekly. And the idea is that Twitter gave us the ability to share the little mundane things that are going on in our life in between those big updates. And the cool thing was, when we first started using Twitter, we started to realize that these people that we followed on their blogs or in their podcast, we started to learn things like what they enjoy eating for dinner, what restaurants they like to eat out at. We started to learn what their favorite sports teams were, or we found out what their hobbies and passions were that had absolutely nothing to do with the niche for which they podcasted about or blogged about. It really gave us a behind-the-scenes view into their lives as human beings. It brought social to social media. Now, in Podcast Answer Man, over the last couple years, I've shared my displeasure, if that's the word. I don't know if that's the right word, but I've shared my displeasure with Twitter and its shift and its focus. And I don't believe Twitter is a valuable tool for us as content creators or social media people. I don't see it as a valuable tool for sharing life in between the posts. I think that we get lost in the mix there. People who are following us on Twitter are also following hundreds of other accounts, and many of those accounts are just spamming their Twitter feeds with nonstop, ongoing, automated, scheduled posts that is nothing but marketing messages. It is. I think that Twitter, my Twitter stream, even when I cut it down to the people I love most in this world, it's just a cesspool of spam. I know that's probably strong language, but that's what it feels like. And I'm just sharing with you what I really feel about Twitter. So is there still some value there in Twitter? Yeah, there is. However, what I can tell you is Snapchat makes me feel today the way that I did when I fell in love with Twitter. And with Snapchat, it allows me to follow some people that I am connected to online, and it allows me to see what's going on in their lives between the blog posts or between the podcast episodes that I'm consuming. And the coolest thing is that there are people who follow me who are maybe not podcasters themselves, they're not bloggers themselves, and maybe they're not online content creators, but they follow me. Maybe they're thinking about becoming that, or maybe they're just entrepreneurs and they have businesses, and I'm connected just barely to them. And what's happened is I've come across a couple of these folks who are following me, and I've followed many of them back. And throughout the day, when I get free time, I find myself pulling up Snapchat instead of Facebook. I find myself pulling up Snapchat instead of Twitter. I find myself sometimes pulling up Snapchat instead of cranking up my podcast app and listening to podcasts. Did I just say that? I did. I will tell you, in my morning routine for years has been, while I'm getting ready in the morning, I'm listening to podcasts. While I'm having lunch or fixing my lunch or whatever, I am listening to podcasts. While I'm, if I shall say, having a bio break, I'm listening to podcasts. And I know, too much information. But anyway, the thing is in my downtime, it had always been filled with listening to podcasts. But what I will tell you, and if it's not listening to podcasts, it was consuming updates via Facebook and less on Twitter. But what I will tell you is that today, and for the last several weeks, my morning, the first thing I grab is Snapchat, and I get up to date with what's been going on since, while I was sleeping in the lives of people that I follow on Snapchat. And when I, going throughout my day and then I get a little free time, I find myself, instead of pulling up a podcast, I am pulling up Snapchat. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that Snapchat's going to replace podcasting, but what I'm saying is that it has captured my heart and attention and has brought the social back to social media in a really awesome way. If you like Periscope and the idea that you can broadcast live yourself from one to many, then I think that you kind of get a feel of that with Snapchat, except that, like podcasting is not live, instead it's pre-recorded and then consumed later. That's kind of what you're getting with Snapchat. You're recording these snaps, these videos, or you can share pictures as well. And it's you, from you, one, to the many who are following, and they can be consumed at a time that is convenient for them. And going back to this whole idea of, there have been a couple people that I'm just slightly connected to or just barely aware of on the fringes of my community, that today, in just a few short weeks, I consider them to be very close friends and growing friendships on a very deep level. I went to, just before I went to New Zealand, there was Pauline Stockhausen. And Pauline, I'm sorry, but before New Zealand, I really didn't know Pauline that well. I believe that we had met maybe at Social Media Marketing World last year. I can't remember if she was one of the ones that I had. I know that I met Natalie there, but that's a whole nother story for another time. But anyway, the thing is that she had been following me on Snapchat, and she had been sending me some private snaps and said, "Hey, Cliff, I noticed you're coming to New Zealand. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the Asia Pacific Podcast Conference." And, she would show me the pictures of the beaches, and she goes, "If you ever want, I can show you around, and it's such a beautiful country. I'll make myself available to be your tour guide if you want." And, and just those little those private snaps that she sent me, when I actually met her at the conference, or when I got into town, she's like, "Hey, what are you doing this afternoon? Do you want me to show you around?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you know what?" And I had already known her enough from following her Snapchat story that I felt comfortable accepting that invitation. And the next thing you know, she is showing me around New Zealand. She's driving me around. She takes time out of her day off of work the day before the conference, and she's showing me around and offering to take more time off after the conference whenever I want to see anything that I want on the Northern Island. It's just incredible. And over the course of those 2 weeks in New Zealand, Pauline became a very close personal friend. And it all happened because of Snapchat. And I don't think it would have happened at this level. And matter of fact, no, I'm positive it wouldn't have happened at this level with Facebook alone. Now, my daughter has called me 3 times since I've started recording this podcast, so I'm going to answer this phone real quick. All right, so I'm back. And guys, I'm sorry, but this episode is not going to be edited, and you are just getting the raw, authentic episode of Cliff Ravenscraft here in the podcast Answer Man this week. The thing is I have to leave here at 5 o'clock. It's currently 4:37, and the schedule is just crazy this week. So my daughter called like 3 times nonstop, and I'm like, okay, this must be an emergency if she's calling me over and over again. She just wanted me, before I leave to go meet them for dinner, she wanted me to turn on the Disney Channel and record Meet the Robinsons tonight. So obviously it was a very big emergency, but that's awesome. All right, so where was I saying? I was saying that there's no way that I would have the relationship that I have today with Pauline Stockhausen if it was not for Snapchat. And the other thing is it's not just Pauline. It is a lot of other people. I would say there are 17 people today that I consider to be very close friends, that I am closer to over the course of 3 weeks than I have been with hundreds of people using connections through Facebook and Twitter over the past several years. And the funny thing is that it just seems so less inintrusive. What's the word I'm thinking of? It just seems okay. When you send me a Facebook private message, it almost seems like that's intruding on my personal space, and it's adding to an email inbox, and an email inbox that I didn't even ask Facebook to provide for me. And if I could actually have the ability to have, when somebody tries to send me a Facebook message, it says, "I'm sorry, Cliff does not use Facebook messages." Just that would be cool. But I have to use Facebook private messages. And I love Facebook Messenger when I go out of the country, by the way. It is a great tool for me to communicate with my family and with others while I'm out of the country. But when I'm in the country, I don't like Facebook private messages. I kind of hate them and despise them. But here's the deal. When I get a direct message on Twitter, I see it as an inconvenience. That's an inbox that I didn't ask Twitter to provide for me. Same thing with Facebook private messages. But Snapchat, when I get a private snap that's a little short 10-second or less video, or a photo of somebody with a little caption that they've written on top of it, or even a little tiny text message that shows up once and then disappears and goes off into the ether, that does not feel like it's invading my personal space. It doesn't feel like it's an inbox. And even though it kind of is, everything's so short and sweet. And I know Twitter direct messages forever were 140 characters or less, but even that seemed a little bit like, I don't know. Am I making sense? But what I can tell you is that when I get a new short little private snap from somebody who's following me on Snapchat, I look forward to loading it and hearing what people have to say. I make sure that I'm in a quiet space so that I'm not distracted. I try to make sure that my phone's not on mute and that it's turned up enough for me to hear it, because I know I'm only going to get a chance to play it once, unless I use I think it's 1 replay a day. But I look forward to these little private snaps, and it gives me a glimpse into the people who I'm connecting to through social media, the people who are consuming my content, and it's allowing me to build deeper relationships with people in my community. Deeper relationships is what it's all about, and that's what I have fallen in love with Snapchat. And not only that, but as a content creator and somebody who loves and feels called to actually share their life online, not just in podcast episodes, but so much more of my life. Now, I'm not saying you as a content creator, you should feel called to do what I'm doing, but I'm telling you that even before Snapchat came around and they had this Snapchat story where you could kind of live vlog not live vlog, but you can time shift vlog random bits and pieces of your day. It's kind of like a day in the life of Cliff Ravenscraft is what it allows me to do. And even years ago, if you go to cliffeotc.com, go to that, by the way, I'll explain that in just a moment, but cliffeotc.com, and that stands for Cliff Encouraging Others Through Content.com. But anyway, cliffeotc.com will take you to a playlist of my vlog on YouTube. Now, my vlog, if you go all the way back to I think it's the first 3 or 4 episodes of the vlog, you'll see those are from years ago. And I had the desire years ago to share my life in, a day in the life kind of content for my community. But it was too much work, and Snapchat has made it simple and easy for me to share my life in that way that I've always desired to do. So, and pretty much if you've missed my Snapchat stories over the last several weeks, not a problem, because guess what? I have found a way for me to transfer all of those Snapchat stories into my YouTube playlist. Again, you can find that at cliffeotc.com. And if you want to just get a glimpse about how awesome New Zealand is, I really encourage you to check out the vlog episodes number 19 through 26. Just sit down and watch all of those if you have an opportunity, and you'll see just how awesome Snapchat is for sharing a day in the life kind of stuff. And the other thing is I just found a way to get high quality versions of my Snapchat stories into YouTube last night. And to tell you how excited about this I am, I started this process of taking, I think, 25 Snapchat stories or 25 vlog episodes. I started it last night at about probably 10:30, 11 o'clock, and I finished it at 5 o'clock this morning. I went without sleep last night, not because of jet lag. I think I'm almost over my jet lag. I did it last night because I was so excited about the fact that I found a way that would allow me to preserve these Snapchat stories for the future. Because that's another thing about Snapchat. After 24 hours, each snap disappears. It's no longer there. But you do have the ability to download them. Now, here's the thing. I am not going to try to teach you everything you need to know about Snapchat here in this episode. But I don't have to, because a couple weeks ago, before I left for New Zealand, I created a full-blown tutorial. I spent 2 hours creating a 40-minute Snapchat tutorial that will teach you everything you need to know about Snapchat and how to use the app. Now, if you've ever tried Snapchat in the past and you said, this app is horrendous, this is the worst user face in the world, well, you're right, it is. And it is not intuitive at all. But once you learn how the app works, it becomes quite simple. And that's exactly what my Snapchat tutorial will do for you, and what it has already done for over 1,000 people. All right, so go to podcastanswerman.com/Snapchat. And that's all one word, by the way. podcastanswerman.com/Snapchat, and watch the tutorial. Guys, I can't urge you enough. If you're an online content creator, I believe you really should be jumping into the Snapchat social network. And by the way, I am not suggesting that you do a day in the life vlogging like I'm doing. Now, some of you will, and some of you are doing that, and some of you I'm following that and really enjoying it. Some of you have tried that, and the way that you do it isn't as appealing to me, and I'm not following it, and that's cool. Different strokes for different folks. There's different approaches to sharing life online appeals to certain different types of people. So we don't all have to follow each other. All right. Hopefully we've learned that from Twitter and Facebook and all these other things. Just because we're not following each other doesn't mean we don't value what each of us bring to the table in this world and in social media overall. And the cool thing is that whether I'm following you or not, every single one of you has the ability to send me a private snap. You can send me a short little text message. As long as the text messages are, just social, then I'm totally cool with that. And they're short, sweet, don't ask me like technical questions and stuff like that via the Snapchat. This is about being social. It's not business, all right? At least not for me. And every single one of you could send me a photo, and it could just say, "Hey, Cliff, this is who I am, and I really enjoy your podcast. Thanks for telling me about Snapchat." And you can write that in text, or you can even draw it in this little scribble draw tool on there if you want. Or you could just hold the little button down and record a 10-second video snap and send it to me. It says, "Hey, Cliff, this is who I am, and I just wanted to have you put a face with a name and just say I appreciate your content." And you never know, I might follow you back, but don't be offended if I don't. But you always have that ability to send me private snaps. And I love getting private snaps. And you have the ability, if you want, to follow me throughout the day as I share little bits and pieces of my life. And if you are busy and you can't stay on Snapchat all day, every day, well, the good news is that I'm taking my Snapchat stories at the end of each day or at some point, and I'm downloading them and I'm making them available as a playlist as my vlog on my YouTube channel at cliffeotc.com. All right? So, yes, this episode is all about telling you that if you have a Facebook account, if you have a Twitter account, and if you have a podcast and you are not already in love with Snapchat, you will be within the next 24 months. And my recommendation is that you fall in love with it now rather than later. Get in on this while people are eagerly looking for people to follow. Right now, back in the early days, it was really easy to amass a large following of Twitter followers because there weren't many people on the platform. There, at least, and even when there were, the content that was the cream of the crop really stood out, and it was easy to get people's attention. And that's what you can be on Snapchat now. You can start creating cream of the crop content on Snapchat, and if people start to discover your content, you could have people following you that would have never known more about you, or that would have never known you at all. I've picked up a lot of new followers who have no idea what Podcast Answer Man is, who have no idea about podcasting, but they have heard about me from their Snapchat friends on Snapchat who have known about me, who talk about me, and then shared my Snap code. And yeah, discoverability is really tough inside of Snapchat, and there's a lot of limitations about Snapchat that you're going to find. And some of you are online marketer. You are such an internet marketer or online marketer. You're going to be thinking, I really wish I could do this, and I wish I could do this. And you know what? I would say that 95% of the things that I've heard people say they wish they could do, I hope Snapchat never allows. I don't want this one to get ruined by all of us online marketers. I don't want to see scheduled things. I don't want to see your uploaded photoshopped images. I don't want to see your professionally edited video that's been, professionally edited down to 10 seconds, but it took you 4.5 hours or maybe even 4 days to create. I don't want to see all that crap from you. I want to see real life in between the posts, in between the podcast episodes. That's what attracts me to this, and that's what I am so passionately in love with it. Can you hear the passion I have for Snapchat? It has been a long time since something new has come along, and I know Snapchat's not new. I've been on Snapchat for over 1.5 years, ever since my teenage daughter got on it. But back then it was, I just didn't get it. But now I get it. And I'm glad I've got it because it has added tremendous value to my life personally. It has added new friends that I literally can call friends that I would not have had it not been for Snapchat. It has added new people who are following my brand and my message in this world that never heard about Podcast Answer Man before. It is allowing me to have influence in people's lives who may have never, ever listened to a podcast before, but they're consistently watching and checking out and hanging on every word I share in my Snapchat stories. Guys, this is incredible. And if you haven't done so yet, you gotta get into it. Let me just ask you this. When was the last time I steered you wrong in social media? And hopefully the answer is never. And I am not going to steer you wrong here. I am telling you, it doesn't matter if you are 13, 33, 63, you're not too old for Snapchat, even though your teenage daughter tells you that you are. You are not. I'm telling you right now that, the average age is probably skews between 16 to 25, but I'm going to tell you that over the next 2 years, the average age of the Snapchat user is probably going to be right around the median age of about 40 to 45. I earnestly believe that. And I believe that within 2 to 3 years, I believe that most of us will be on Snapchat more than we're on Facebook. And that's already happening for me right now. And I don't think that that's going to change. Although I still see a lot of value in Facebook, by the way. And I probably will see increasing value in Facebook as I start to do some more next level things in my business and marketing. But here's what I can tell you is that I'm not looking to use Snapchat as a channel to further market products and services and my business and stuff. You know what I'm using Snapchat for? I'm using Snapchat to build relationships. I'm using Snapchat to be social. I'm using Snapchat to take my message, which is, my business is a part of my message, but my message is bigger than my business. There's something greater inside of me that I feel called to give to the world that isn't just things that drive income into funnels and mailing lists and all that other stuff. So, yeah. So there you go. So that's this week's episode of Podcast Answer Man. Random, off the cuff. And some of you I know are going to say, Cliff, this was one of the best episodes of Podcast Answer Man I've heard in a very long time. And for those of you, I thank you for sharing that. You can leave that comment over at podcastanswerman.com/438. This is episode number 438 of this podcast. So if you want to leave a comment, you can. podcastanswerman.com/438. Comments are open for 30 days after the publishing of this episode. And and of course, do me a favor. Follow me on Snapchat. Give me a try. See if you like it. And if you end up not following me after a couple days, but you find other people who you enjoy following, then that's fine too. I'm cool with that. My username is Cliff, EOTC. You can remember it by Cliff encouraging others through content. And that's another thing. Just quick little random note here. I signed up with Skype years ago with the username Cliff EOTC. It was one of my very first online usernames or screen names I've ever chosen, Cliff EOTC. And I had Skype, I think was probably my oldest one that still is in use today. And when I signed up for Snapchat, I tried to get GSPN, but it was too short. So I had to choose something, and I couldn't do Cliff Ravenscraft because it was too long, which is always the case, except for on Facebook. And so I went ahead and just chose Cliff EOTC because I was only going to use it to connect with my daughter. Well, Snapchat wouldn't let me change it, and so I just decided to use it. Well, this is the year of identity, and in the Cliff Ravenscraft show, if you guys aren't subscribed to it, go subscribe. I'm going to be recording a new episode, an audio episode of the Cliff Ravenscraft show within the next couple days, and in it, I'm going to give an update on the year of identity, an audio update on the year of identity. I might even call it the year of identity part 3, and what I learned about myself while I was in New Zealand. So if that sounds interesting to you, go to your favorite podcast app and do a search for the Cliff Ravenscraft show. And let me just go ahead and pull up real quick and tell you what episode that is. You're going to be looking for episode number 659. And just so you know, there's 15, 20 episodes that are all video episodes in that podcast, and the video episodes are going to stop. I'll talk about that in a future episode of Podcast Answer Man, my experiment of putting my video recordings of my Snapchat stories in my audio podcast. So that's a future episode. But anyway, I do encourage you to check out episode number 659 when I do release it in the next couple days. That's it. Just look for 659, and it's going to be the Year of Identity Part 3, more than likely, or something like that. What else was I going to say? Oh, but I just want to let you know, in that episode, I'm going to explain what Cliff EOTC originally meant. And I'll just say it right now. Cliff EOTC, when I first came up with the screen name, it used to stand for Cliff Encouraging Others Through Christ. All right. And that was the original acronym. Today, I'm going with Cliff Encouraging Others Through Content. And no, I have not backslidden Eric Fisher or Andy Traub. And not that they've said that. They just said, cue up the people who are going to question Cliff's, relationship with Christ. It's nothing like that at all. I'm not ashamed of my faith, and anybody who knows me knows that. But there is a reason why I'm not going to, when people ask me, what does Cliff EOTC stand for? There's a reason why I'm going to say that it stands for, and why it does stand for Cliff Encouraging Others Through Content. And it has everything to do with what I learned about myself and my identity while I was in New Zealand. That's what's going to be in episode 639 of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show. And that's why, if that sounds appealing, you should check it out. Anyway, so all of that's going to be there. But just so you know, I am no longer at GSPN on Twitter, and I am no longer at GSPN on Instagram. Instead, on both of those platforms, I am twitter.com/CliffEOTC, and on Instagram, I am EOTC. And for the first time ever, I'm really excited about the fact that my main YouTube channel that has pretty much everything that should be online, it's youtube.com/CliffEOTC. That was an early username that I had online as well, that now I'm happy about. So I'm trying to get to the place where eventually I'm going to be Cliff EOTC everywhere. All right. Anyway, that's enough rambling from me. I apologize for not editing, but I really need to head out of here to go have dinner. I'll come back in later this evening and upload this episode and get it scheduled so that you guys get this by 5 a.m. every week in the feed of Podcast Answer Man. Look forward to it every week. And guys, thank you so much for giving me your attention another week here in Podcast Answer Man. And one final thing, my next session of Podcasting A to Z starts Monday, March 14th. I have 8 people who are already registered. I'm looking to have a minimum of 12 more. I'd like to have 20 to 30 students in this next session. And I haven't done anything to market it outside of pre-recording the episodes that you've already heard prior to this one before I left for New Zealand. But I'm getting ready to start sending out some emails next week. I'm going to start reaching out to some people who are on my personal follow-up list. And I might try to find some other creative ways to market this course. But if you are thinking about launching a podcast and would like to have me as your personal coach, walking you through every step in the process, and if you'd like the ability to have the access to ask me any question you want for 4 weeks and guarantee that I'm going to answer every question that you ask, then this is the course for you. Head over to podcastingatoz.com. And yes, you can ask me questions about Snapchat. Yes, you can ask me questions about Anchor. Yes, you can ask me about all sorts of other things. And that's my alarm going off here in the studio telling me I need to end this thing and go meet my family for dinner. Thank you guys so much. Podcastingatoz.com. I hope to work with a few of you in this next session of the course. Until next time, my friends, I encourage you to take everything you do in life to the next level.
Helping you take everything you do to the next level.